Okay, well, welcome everybody. I hope that you are having a fantastic second day of fall. I'm sure it's probably rainy wherever you are in Arkansas. And just thank you for spending some of your lunch hour with us. Today we're going to talk about something that many job seekers have experienced, and that is getting ghosted by employers. So we're going to explore why it happens, how you can avoid it, and what you can do to stand out. And by the end of this presentation, you should be walking away with some practical strategies and tools to make the hiring process less frustrating and hopefully more successful. So, just some quick housekeeping notes before we get started. Please keep yourselves on mute during the presentation. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you do have any questions that you want discussed at the end, feel free to throw them in the chat as we're going through, and we will definitely cover it. So before we jump into today's topic, I want to introduce who we are and what we do if you are new to Apprenticely. So we are a nonprofit really dedicated to bridging that gap between career seekers and employers. And we partner with different companies across different industries to create apprenticeship programs in fields like cybersecurity, data analytics, development, and others. We're actually expanding even into like healthcare and advanced manufacturing, so it's really exciting. But our main bread and butter is going to be the IT sector, and we are really mission focused to help grow that IT talent right here in Arkansas and connect people with meaningful careers. So just to kind of tell you a little bit about the programs that we have, if you're interested, we have our Reskill program, which includes free training in IT. We also do provide free career coaching services as well. So you can think resume reviews and mock interview practice. We also connect candidates to short-term work-based learning internships. So these are actually paid internship opportunities, as well as registered apprenticeships, which are permanent employment opportunities. But really, I want you to know, like, our goal isn't just to help you land a job, but really it's to build that long-term career pathway. So now that you know a little bit about who we are, I want to quickly introduce the voices behind today's session. First, we have Miss Katie Vereen. She is our apprenticeship recruiter here at Apprenticely, and I'm Katie Rains, and I'm the Reskill Program Manager. So if you get confused, she's Katie with the K, I'm Katie with the C, but today we're going to walk you through some of the most common job search challenges and strategies that really work. So to get us started, I have a question for you. How many applications have you submitted this month? Maybe it was 5, 10, maybe for some of you it's been a few dozen. Throw it in the chat because genuinely I want to know, how many have you submitted? But no matter how much that you have submitted, I bet this is something you've probably experienced, especially right now. And that's that volume alone rarely wins. So if you've been applying a lot, but you've been hearing, very little back, I want you to know first and foremost that it's not a reflection of your abilities. It is a reflection though, or I guess a signal to go ahead and start looking at shifting your strategy on how you apply. We know that applications really are not just about the quantity, how many that you can pump out per day, but really it's about the quality and alignment to that job that you're applying to. But it does beg the question that I think is on everybody's mind: why do employers go silent in the first place? So why are we getting ghosted? And let's be honest, getting ghosted is one of the most frustrating things you can go through. If you've ever been on a dating app, I'm sure maybe you've dealt with being ghosted by somebody. But even in the job search, it's something that we have to deal with. So, you apply, maybe you even get, that first phone call, maybe even an interview, and then radio silence on their end. Once again, something that you really should remember: being ghosted is not about your worth as a candidate. Sometimes employers post what are called ghost jobs. It's something that is kind of a popular term you might have heard on the news or on TikTok. And these are unfortunately real things that are happening. But these ghost jobs are positions that stay online to collect resumes or to show that the company is always hiring, always that growth mindset with a lot of, these for-profit companies, especially. So even if they don't plan on actually filling that role right away. Other times, companies put up postings because their internal policy says that they have to, even if they have an internal candidate that they've already identified. So even when the job is real, things can go quiet for reasons that are just completely out of our control. Maybe there are hundreds of applicants for that job that you applied to, and the recruiters are overwhelmed trying to go through them. Or maybe the company's priorities have shifted and the role got put on hold. That happens a lot. Or maybe their internal communication systems just aren't that strong. On top of all of that, hiring teams are, at the end of the day, human. So sometimes they just simply drop the ball. So if you ever have been ghosted, once again, know this, it's almost always about the employer's process, not about your talent, your experience, or your value. So while ghosting really is something that is frustrating, there's something that is even trickier out there that we really need to keep an eye out for, and that's looking to see if the jobs are even real. So we're going to talk about scams and how we spot them. And I like to kind of think of, these scams as like the spooky side of the job search. These are postings that look real on the surface, but really they're kind of designed to trick you. And there's a few red flags for that you really should look out for about these particular postings. So first, if a posting has been online for months with no updates, that's suspicious. And you should be able to see, just how long that particular posting has been up. Sometimes it will say, 30 days plus, or sometimes it will say, actual, maybe 150 days, but keep an eye out for how long that job posting has been up. Legitimate employers don't leave job openings stagnant forever. That's just something that doesn't happen. So keep an eye out for that. Second, look closely at the company information. If there is, just little detail about who they are, or if you can't find them online, that's definitely a sign something is off. Thirdly, pay attention to the email address. So if it doesn't match like the company's domain, maybe it says like, hiring manager Walmart at gmail.com or something along those lines. That's a huge red flag. Definitely not real. Be very, very skeptical. And of course, if the job description is promising pay that feels way too good to be true, it probably is. I do want to kind of tell you guys about one of the most common scams that we've heard, and that is if you apply online for a position and the recruiter gets back to you right away, maybe they even offer you a job without interviewing. They might say something along the lines of, you're going to be sent a check to purchase your equipment, but first you need to deposit it and send them part of the money back. I know in times of kind of maybe like desperation, you're trying to get out of, the unemployment rut. This might sound like an exciting opportunity, but, a lot of times the check bounces and you're left on the hook for that money. Gotta say, no legitimate employer is ever going to ask you to send money, uninstall unfamiliar software, or ask you to hand over personal details like, bank account information, social security number, or anything before a formal hiring process starts. So just kind of keep this in mind. And employers, they're investing in you, not the other way around. But what about those times when you're still not sure if a job opportunity is real or not? That's when it's time to unmask the truth behind the situation. And there's a few things that you guys can do as kind of like a quick checklist to run through before you apply. First, go to the company's official website. If the job is not listed there, red flag, not real. Second, check LinkedIn or Google. Look for real employees, a real address, and signs of active, legitimate company. And thirdly, and I know a lot of times people struggle with this one especially, but don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call the number on the company's verified site to ensure that role is real. uh, they will tell you, whether it is real or not. I know for me, this is kind of something I did even when I applied to Apprenticely, because we were a very new company at the time. I'm like, oh wow, this really does sound like, remote opportunity, too good to be true. So I did my research. I looked in on LinkedIn to make sure people were real. Looked to see, where exactly they were located. Got a little nervous because everybody works remotely here, but then started actually talking to the people who work here and realized, okay, this is a legit position. But don't be afraid to ask those questions, to reach out, and to verify. But for deeper layer of verification tools, you can also use things like whois.com, and this shows you how long a company's website has been live and active. So, if it's a brand new domain with a dozen job postings, usually this is going to be a bad sign. Don't fall for it. But the bottom line really is that a legitimate employer will hold up under a little bit of research. So take that extra few minutes before you apply. So, you can save that time, that energy, and overall protect your personal information. That's really key in today's day and age. So now that you know how to spot real opportunities, the next step is making sure your application doesn't disappear. So I'm going to pass it off to Miss Katie Vereen, and she's going to show us how to create a strong application that gets noticed.
Yeah, just to talk a little bit about creating that strong application. When you're job hunting, it's easy to use those major job boards like Indeed or LinkedIn. However, I truly believe that applying directly on that company site or their careers page can sometimes yield better results. You have the opportunity by applying directly on their site to work with their ATS, also referred to as an applicant tracking system. You can work with it instead of against it. It's important to note a generic resume won't stand out the same way that a tailored resume does to a hiring manager when that job description is asking for specific skills and experience. So when your resume references those exact skills listed for the position, the hiring manager can easily see that you're qualified for the job. The ATS, the applicant tracking system, will scan the resume to match keywords and skills from the posting, and it filters out those that don't align. So, using that resume template with your name and contact information and those experience and skills can really help stand out. You can also use helpful tools like JobScan or Resume Worded to help tailor that job description. We have a couple examples of some resumes here. So there's one that I love and one that doesn't necessarily yield those same results. So the one on the left side, it has a bunch of images and pictures on it. Those don't always upload great into an ATS. They're a little sensitive. So it's possible that those skills sections they get overlooked because that information is not being input into the system. So I think it's best to keep a resume simple. You want to use easy to read fonts that are able to take that text and upload directly into that API. It's definitely important to note when you have these resumes, if you're open to relocation, go ahead and put any of that relevant information on a resume. I always say that. Um, but yeah, we can also dive in to how to follow up. So say you've gotten an interview, you've spoken with somebody, let's not ghost them back. You can easily send an email to the recruiter or HR representative that you've been working with. I think there are some companies that do find a little hesitancy in handing out the hiring manager's direct contact information. So my favorite thing when I was a recruiter uh, at a private corporation was when a candidate would email me their thank you note to the hiring manager that I could then forward on to that hiring manager. So it was a great way just to say, hey, thank you for the interview. Can you send this note on? Personalize that message, mention the exact job title you applied with. Uh, Throw in a bit from the conversation. So I really enjoyed learning about XYZ at the organization. Remind them of that interview and when you interviewed. I also appreciate when there's a call to action in that message. So you can say, I'd like to inquire about the hiring timeline. I'd like to check the status of my application, or even asking for feedback from that hiring manager. You can say, hey, I've been in the job search. I'd love any feedback about skills that I should gain. You don't want to ask too much. Keep it kind of short and sweet. Keep it down to maybe one call to action. But I would go either one of those routes. Um, Talking next about building a professional brand, we want to, package ourselves so that we are when we are on LinkedIn, when they have our profiles, that we are an ideal candidate. So most recruiters use LinkedIn when they are struggling to fill positions. So I always recommend having a professional headshot. Fun fact, the headshot I used for this, I took right behind me and I just polished it up using Canva, which is a free platform that you could add a background to and make that photo stand out and look like a professional headshot instead of one that I just took on my iPhone. Um, but you can also build your credibility through LinkedIn. So there are endorsement sections on LinkedIn where previous employers, coworkers can endorse you for skills that you've learned. They can even write a reference or a referral on there. Recruiters check those. They definitely read those skills and want to know more about a person before they reach out. And so I think it's great to package yourself, but also use that to research the companies on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can see who works there. You can see how often they've been hiring. You can get a feel for their culture and ask yourself, do I feel like I belong here? Do I feel like I would be happy here? I think it's definitely important to research a company fully. One, so we know that we're not applying and just sending our data out there, but we know it's a legitimate organization, and you can dive in a little bit more before you speak with them. I'd love to talk a little bit more about what that hidden job market is. So, networking, we all know, is key. The study by the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, said that 85% of positions are filled through networking. I refer to this sometimes as the hidden job market. So, it's technically referred to as employment opportunities that are not publicly advertised on job boards, but are instead filled through internal promotions, employee referrals, or direct outreach through recruiters or networking. So employers sometimes prefer to hire through those referrals and networking systems because it saves time, it builds trust, and reduces those hiring costs. We can utilize this awareness to position ourselves to make those connections through networking. A couple of those opportunities for networking include career fairs and conferences. I always like to make a note when we're going to conferences or career fairs, community career fairs. Don't just collect business cards, have a follow up plan. So make sure you are getting the name of the person you've talked to. You can take their business card and write a little bit of a note on the back of it and say, we talked about this, and then follow up with them. Build that long lasting relationship. Have a elevator pitch planned, a 30-second pitch about yourself that you can say, I'm looking for this role in this industry. This is my background, so that you can really stand out and impress them. And just a note, I have on here family, friends, social events. opportunities can arise anywhere. I was at a wedding a couple weeks ago and we met a lot of people that I was like, oh, I want to connect with you to talk more about work. Um, Keep these conversation starters ready. Have that elevator pitch prepared so that you can subtly touch on your work or career interests and focus on that authentic networking. Build that relationship. And then when those opportunities arise, you have that foundational relationship that's been built. Just a little bit more about some of those meetup events. There's a couple different platforms on LinkedIn. You can connect with people you know in past roles. Make a post that you're open to work. Reach out to your network. Utilize that. But there's also professional groups on there for job seekers. You can join one of those and get feedback on your resume. You can do mock interviews with some of the folks on there. Of course, we at Apprenticely are here to help, but practice makes perfect, as I always say. There's also other sites like meetup.com. We promise it's not a dating website. You can select your city and state and your area of interest. So if it's cybersecurity, there is a Central Arkansas Hackers group that's been real popular in the past. Central Arkansas JavaScript or NWA Linux user groups. You can easily find where they're hosting events. There's even a group called Toastmasters that practices public speaking. It's a great way to make connections with people. And then when all else fails, you can Google networking events, career fairs, community career fairs, school career fairs, and utilize those alerts. You can set up an alert for events based on that criteria. It's really a great way to just put yourself out there. Jobs may be hidden in this job market, but opportunities are around us if we know where to look and how to look. So that's a little bit about what we wanted to talk with you today.
Yeah, and kind of like before we wrap up, a couple of things. I'm gonna throw in the chat. There's a page I follow on Facebook, if you guys are on Facebook, called JK Career Solutions. And this person, they own like a career coaching company in Little Rock. But what I really love is that they post every single day jobs that are real and in Arkansas. So remote opportunities, opportunities in like, Conway, the Northwest Arkansas area, all different areas. So definitely if you have Facebook, I would highly suggest following their page, maybe even getting like that notification update. We're not affiliated with them anyway. It's just a really good resource. I'm constantly sharing their posts, so just thought I'd share it with you guys too. But as Miss Katie Vereen was saying, like networking is going to probably be one of the best ways for you to move into a new position. So if you guys are in the Central Arkansas area, tomorrow we have our quarterly Biz Buzz Tech and Talk mashup over at the Little Rock Tech Park. It's on the second floor. You really can't miss it. And that's going to be from 4 to 6. So this is a great opportunity to network with other folks who are looking for jobs, people who are hiring, and then just really to create that community. I find that a lot of people are just not really in touch with what's going on in their community. This is a great way to get involved. Also, there are food and drinks provided, so there's really no reason to not go. Free food, we always love that. But yeah, I'm gonna be there, so if you guys are able to join, I would absolutely love to see you. And then with that being said, here is our contact info. I don't know if you guys are actually seeing our phone number, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw it in the chat. 6210604. That's what it is. And then if you guys want to reach out to us about either, the reskill program or maybe different opportunities that you've seen online, maybe you want to do a mock interview, you can reach us at talent@apprenticely.org. I'm also going to throw my personal email address out there. So if you guys would like, resume review, interview coaching, any of that, please feel free to reach out to me. And then Miss Katie Vereen threw hers in as well. But with that, I'm going to open the floor to any questions. Do you guys have anything that you would like to ask?
Be shy. You've got some really valuable resources at your disposal. While you're thinking of it, I'll share a interesting statistic I just kind of Googled from a 2024 survey on, um, how many applications equal, landing a job.
Mhm.
And it was 162. And then it even drilled into, to get one interview, 27 applications. So, I really appreciate Katie Rains how you said it on, knowing that it's not you, it's a numbers game, and how often the position may already be filled, kind of
Mhm.
pre-identified, or they're waiting on the background check to clear. So many different reasons, but big advocate of networking your way to a new
Mhm.
job opportunity.
Absolutely. Okay, we have a couple questions. One, how often do you get IT job offers? So I'm not quite sure about what you're asking. I think maybe you're asking about how often we have openings. So what I will say is for our both for our work-based learning program and our apprenticeship program, it's not on like a schedule of like, okay, we know we're going to have a cohort in the fall for, Java developers. It is really based on employer demand. So, what are employers looking for? Because these are real jobs. These are not, like short little stints most of the time. In fact, the majority of our internships actually roll into full-time apprenticeships, which is really great. And then apprenticeships are obviously that permanent full-time position. So we don't have that set schedule. I will say check on our website. I would say either Mondays or Fridays, probably Fridays would be best, even to see any new opportunities that we have. And Rodney says, has anyone gotten a job while going through the reskill program? Yes, a lot of people have. So some people, get jobs in the fields that they're, wanting to, go in, and they kind of graduate through the program that way. Some of them get a kind of a placeholder position that, they're working through as they're going through their training. I will say if you do that, you are not disqualified from, the reskill program. So, if you're looking for a job that's in the field that you actually want to be in, that's the only qualification really that is required to be in the reskill program. So don't be scared to get, a job and think, oh no, now I can't, take this training, but I really needed to take this job, for the time being. That's not how our program is set up. So just want to make sure, there's some peace of mind there.
And just to jump in with Elizabeth's question, are all the meetup events usually in Little Rock? I'm not based in Little Rock. However, you can filter your location on meetup.com to wherever is the best location for you. And use those search tools on Google to set those parameters so that those alerts will post the ones that are more convenient for your location.
Absolutely. That's a great question too.
And if I could jump in and just kind of, um, we are a nonprofit,
Mhm.
and all the services we provide are free, but we are not meant to be a staffing agency.
Mhm.
As Katie mentioned, are the positions that our team work on are very limited to, what our employer partners allow us to work on. And so, um, think of us just as a supplement, an extension. We are not meant to be a placement agency, but we hope that through these webinars, sharing,
Mhm.
our knowledge, that tips and tricks on resumes and interview practice, and the training that we have available will help. But I just hate, I don't want, someone to get the misconception that if you apply with us, we guarantee employment. I don't want to get someone's hopes up. It's a partnership, but we do
Mhm.
hope that we add value. And please, if you have any recommendations on what would be helpful for our team of career coaches to add to our services, please let us know.
Had a couple more questions, and thank you for that, Ashley, for kind of like clarifying a little bit about where we fit in this workforce development space. We had a question about, is this recording going to be shared? Absolutely. So if you would like to, watch this after, I know I'm a fast talker, so you might need to go and put it on, half speed. You can look online on our YouTube channel. It is Apprenticely, and that will be uploaded there. And then finally, Rochelle, can you talk after this? I'm busy this afternoon, Rochelle, but I did get your email this morning, and one, congratulations on completing your cybersecurity certification. That's awesome. But I will definitely talk with you about kind of next steps, working on your resume, doing mock interviews, and all that fun stuff. Well, if there's no more questions, we will go ahead and let you guys have part of your lunch back. But once again, thank you so much for your time. I know, your time is extremely valuable, so thank you for sharing part of it with us today. I hope you the best of luck in your job search, and please know, like Ashley said, we are a resource here to help however we can. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.